Now the first thing I want to do when making this quiver is taking measurements. So this is the type of arrow that I am going to store in this quiver, which is really just a practice arrow. It's not one of my hunting arrows or one of my traditional arrows. This is just a cedar, again, just a cedar practice arrow. And these fletchings are 5 inches. So what I like to do is I usually like to go about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch from the top and the bottom of this fletching. And so when I lay this down on the quiver, I'm gonna go ahead and make the decision to go about a 1/2 inch. I'm just going to take my pencil and make a mark at the tip of this point. And then I'll go down again and I'll go about 3.5 inches and I'll make another mark. So that's how much material I'm going to have on the bottom of this quiver. So this is all going to be a solid base of punk wood. I'm not going to remove that section. And I'm actually not going to cut this line right now, just so I have a little bit of room to play with in case I make error up top or even in the center. I can just drag this down further and further. So that's really important when making this style of quiver. So now that we got that measured, I'm just going to sit that to the side. And I want to first of all take my knife and I want to start digging around this punky material. And I want to start digging it out up top, and then I can start using my juniper stick a little bit later on. So I just take it like this and I use the top of the knife and I just kind of dig that out. That helps to give me a real good start on this. And again, this stuff is so easy to remove with modern tools, but even with primitive tools, such as what I'm using today, just that juniper stick or a piece of hardwood. If you're on the East Coast, use a piece of maple or hickory. That'll do the job as well. As long as it's harder than this punky material, which most woods are. And I'll just continue around. And if you don't have a knife, resort to stone tools. I've seen some quartz around here. Not too far from here, we have a butte of quartzite. We have a butte of obsidian. We can use both of those materials to slowly remove this punk wood. So the one thing you don't want to do is get this center and all this punky material wet. If you do get it wet and there's a lot of moisture in the air, or even if water gets in the inside, you're going to have to let it dry for at least a week and a half. This punky material tends to suck up a lot of moisture. So that's one of the things to keep in mind when you make a quiver like this. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and take my juniper stick and start digging out this pith. So I switched over from my knife, of course. And this is where the process tends to get pretty tedious, and we'll be here for a while. Just digging and slowly chunking away at this material. You also want to check your sidewalls. So as I'm doing this, I'm also feeling around, making sure I'm not getting too close, because we don't want to damage that. That's the hardest part of this quiver, and that's important. So again, you can just see what I'm doing. I'm just slowly chipping away at this and just kind of digging out that center. That's all that's to this. Well, at least hollowing it out. That's all that's to it. When we start making our strap, we have to weave up yucca cordage or nettle fiber. We could even use jute twine. That's what I used on that agave stock. It's just I like to go the natural way, and I like to use what's in my environment. So all around me I have a whole bunch of Mojave yucca, And that's what I'll use. It adds a lot of character too. We could either braid it or we can make a 2-ply cordage. I usually like to make a 2-ply cordage with the yucca. It seems to do well. But braiding it, it'll do the same job. So you see how much material that's been removed on the inside. You can see that's starting to become nice and hollow. And then I'll put a finishing touch around this end. I might even seal it off using a piece of brain tan. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll just work with it. So a couple things you can do when making a quiver like this to save on time is, number one, use your arrow and use your stick as a guide. So if we take 2 of the ends and we trace them right down to the bottom and we have those flat, we can trace up to the top and make a pencil mark or even use charcoal to mark right where that fletching ends and where the quiver begins. So instead of grabbing our arrow each time to measure this out in depth, we can use our digging stick. So that'll help aid in saving us time. The next thing, and I always do this when I make these style quivers, is flatten the 2 ends of your digging stick. That'll help you not only with scraping the sides of the quiver, but it'll also help penetrate through that punky material.